Welcome to Caged Combat with Kevin and Chris. I'm Kevin.
I'm Chris.
And today we're talking about the most intriguing fight of the UFC 209 fight card. A fight between dominant grappler Khabib Nurmagomedov and striker Tony Ferguson. And I gotta tell you, I am so excited for this fight. What do you think, Chris?
Indeed, one of the most anticipated lightweight bouts in recent history. I mean, we have two top contenders in the lightweight division, a division that has been stacked for a while. But this matchup really just can go either way. What do you think?
This is such a 50-50 matchup. Such a 50-50 matchup. And keep in mind, the winner of this fight will also probably take on the champion, Conor McGregor, who's just been annihilating every contender that comes his way. So in this video, we're going to be breaking down the strengths and weaknesses of both fighters, starting with Tony Ferguson.
Tony Ferguson, as we know, a winner of The Ultimate Fighter, knocked out Ramsey. Very good fighter. I mean, when it comes to Tony Ferguson, he has been criticized for his ego, his personality, which is, a sort of a moneymaker nowadays in the business of MMA. You have to have an ego, you have to have it, but Tony Ferguson backs it up, and he backs it up with his innovative striking, his innovative jiu-jitsu game, a black belt under Eddie Bravo, 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu. And when we have Tony Ferguson coming up to the ranks, we have him with a very, very strong, unorthodox style that no opponent has yet figured out. We come to talks about his strengths: innovative jiu-jitsu game, innovative striking game. What else do you need in the lightweight division? Nothing. You don't need anything in this lightweight division. Right now, he's cleared the division. He's cleared it essentially. Khabib Nurmagomedov, he's cleared it as well. That's why this matchup, just when it comes to both of them down, it's one of the most intriguing matchups of the year. No doubt about it.
76-inch reach for Tony Ferguson. Compare that to a 70-inch reach
of Khabib.
6-inch
reach advantage on Ferguson, it could be a game changer in this fight. It could be a game changer. Reach has been an underrated term in the MMA world, and it does matter. And it does matter when you have Tony Ferguson, who can use his reach and can use his striking. He brings problems for opponents.
I mean, as the lengthier fighter, Tony Ferguson in his fights has shown that he can maintain a distance and using his lefts and his right straights, he can maintain a distance that very much throws fighters off. Combine that with his back right leg kick, which is his probably third most important weapon. But he won't be able to use it in this fight. I don't think so, because he'll be afraid of being taken down.
For me, Tony Ferguson, what he should fear in the Khabib fight has to be the pressure of Khabib's grappling. He doesn't mind being taken down. Tony can play on the ground as well. His guard is one of the most interesting guards in the MMA world, in my opinion. So, if Khabib does take him down, where do you see the fight playing from there?
Well, it definitely won't be an easy match for anyone. Tony Ferguson, assumingly on the bottom, has astounding defense on the ground. I don't think I've ever seen him hit on the ground. Every time he gets taken down, it's because he wants to be taken down. His defense on the ground is just incredible. Yeah. I've even seen him do when he's on the bottom, he can actually outstrike the opponent from the bottom. It's something we don't see very often in MMA.
When it comes to Tony Ferguson, it has that will. He has that will to keep on fighting, even if he is on the ground. And he doesn't mind being taken down. So if Khabib gets to know this during that fight, when it does play out, does Tony freak out? Does he keep his composure? Does he battle back? Does he stand himself up? What does he do? That is what makes this fight so interesting and so intriguing. And when it comes to, Tony's weaknesses, I don't see a lot of holes in his game. But it all depends on his game plan. How does he want to, dictate the fight? Does he dictate his fight with the striking, or does he dictate his fight with his, jiu-jitsu?
Well, if there's one thing Tony is great at is moving forward. And if there's one thing I've noticed about Khabib's weaknesses is that he tends to move backwards a little bit too much.
And we saw that in the Michael Johnson fight as well. Michael Johnson clipped Khabib. He clipped him really hard. Khabib reacted. He reassessed himself, and he began taking down Michael Johnson and eventually, finished him. So we get to see how that plays out as well. Bringing it back to Khabib, will Khabib crumble under, Tony Ferguson's unorthodox striking? We will find out. But that, again, makes this fight so interesting and so thought-provoking to a certain extent.
Well, one thing I like about Tony Ferguson is when he's moving forward, his head is never on the center line. It's constantly head moving. it makes him very difficult to hit. But he's shown in was Vandana? Mm-hmm. That he does get hits a lot. But that's only because Vandana backed him up. Moving forward, Ferguson is nearly unhittable. He wins most of the exchanges when he's moving forward. And once
Ferguson got touched by Lando, he did reassess himself and began being the aggressor. Started again using his unorthodox strikes and did land a pretty powerful Superman punch off the cage on Lando.
That Superman punch was pretty.
It hurt him as well, and that changed the fight dramatically. Lando again, fight on short notice. His cardio probably was, played around with. His cardio probably wasn't the best. Gassed himself out, in my opinion. And really, Lando could have won that fight. But again, we keep talking about heart. Tony Ferguson has the heart. He has the will to keep fighting on. He got rocked 2 times. Tony Ferguson came back and eventually won the fight. And that's what brings him up as, in my opinion, one of the top pound-for-pound fighters in the UFC right now. And in MMA in general.
What I like about Tony Ferguson is if he does get hit, which he's very prone to being hit, he's smart. His fight IQ is very high. He knows when to clinch and when to use his defensive wrestling and defensive jiu-jitsu to stay out of trouble. He's very innovative on the ground. He'll go for spinning attacks, but sure. When he needs to try to dive, he can dive for leg locks and holds that keep him out of danger when he's being hit.
Mm-hmm. No doubt. Again, this fight, in my honest opinion, can go either way. And it depends whose game plan really does dominate the other man's game plan. But again, we don't know what their game plan is, which makes this fight even more interesting. What does Tony come and do? And what does he start doing in the fight? Does he want to start ranging his strikes? Does he want to keep Khabib away? Or does he want Khabib to come in and try to take him down so he can lure him into his own jiu-jitsu game?
Well, if there's one hole in Tony Ferguson's game, it is maintaining his reach. There's been many fighters that have been able to get on the inside. And I feel that even though Khabib Nurmagomedov is prone to moving backwards, when he leaps forward with looping punches, he's able to generate so much weight that he could get on the inside and clip Tony Ferguson and possibly hurt him and knock him down.
Khabib's striking has been a little bit deficient.
Sloppy?
A little bit sloppy. I mean, he has gone lucky, in my opinion, with one of his strikes. He certainly does know how to lunge in and strike. Again, we saw that in the Gleison-Tibau fight. He did catch Gleison with a couple of good left and right hands. But again, lunging in. And what he does so well is disguise his punches with his takedowns. His infamous takedowns would just seem to dominate any other wrestler's takedowns. And again, we come back to this Sambo subject, which has been... We haven't seen a lot of dominant Sambo fighters. Mind you, Fedor Emelianenko, one of the best of all time. We haven't seen that many in the UFC, at least. So when we see Khabib, it's sort of a fresh, a bit of fresh air when it comes to that style. A grueling... But it's no lay and pray, because Khabib doesn't only take you down. He's innovative, and he wants to finish you. And we saw that Alas versus Michael Johnson. Took him down, essentially started seeing where Johnson started getting more uncomfortable, and, pounded him out.
If we're talking about the Michael Johnson fight, the way he absolutely obliterated Johnson on the ground
Johnson was just rather weak.
So after being clipped and being hurt in the first round, just goes to show that Khabib has a chin and he can come back from adversity. Khabib doesn't even need to be in your full guard to hit you either. He can push you up against the fence, make you post, and just clip you from there as well. Khabib is a very dominant grappler, and his punches, his looping punches, he's Fedor-like in the way they set up his takedowns. Mm-hmm. He moves in wild, albeit wild, possibly maybe if you were looking at it from a kickboxing point of view, sloppy striking actually sets up his takedowns moving in. So if he comes forward, he can get a hold of Ferguson, because Ferguson has shown in fights that he doesn't hold his ground very well.
Which leads us to our overall opinion and prediction of this fight.
Predictions.
How do you see this fight playing out when it does come March 9th?
Well, first of all, I see Tony Ferguson actually having, with the 6-inch reach advantage, with straight punches, I see him having the advantage standing up. Yeah. I see Khabib possibly being hurt, but... No one has really shown... There's no reason to count Khabib out of this fight. No one's ever beaten him. No one's in the UFC has really even hurt him. Pat Haley looked good against him. Gleison-Tibau looked okay. In his first fight, Khabib got hit a couple of times. But in each of these fights, Khabib has been able to come back, circle out of danger, get the takedown, and pound the fighter out. And he's shown a good Kimura against Michael Johnson. He's shown that he can submit fighters. Mm-hmm. He's shown that his ground and pound... his ground and pound is amazing. I don't think we've ever seen ground and pound as good from the top game in the lightweight division as good as Khabib's. So I see Khabib winning this fight in the third round by TKO.
TKO. Tony Ferguson has always fascinated me, and he's always, again, we've never really seen Tony Ferguson with a certain strategic game plan in any of his fights. He comes out, and whatever he brings to the table, he knows he has the edge on. He has the jiu-jitsu edge on most of his fighters he's fought. He has the striking advantage as well. The fight that I do think about is the Edson Barboza fight. That was a very close fight.
Great fight.
But Tony Ferguson essentially
nullified
him and completely dominated him on the ground. And don't take anything away from Edson Barboza. Again, another dark horse in the stacked lightweight division, which we will get on into further episodes of this. But in my opinion, Tony Ferguson has that will, and he knows he's already in Khabib's head. He already knows he's in Khabib's head. Tony will bring that out in the upcoming weeks when it comes down to, fight week. And I do see Tony Ferguson completely dominating Khabib on the ground and on the stand-up. But in the end of that, I see Khabib completely just dumbfounded on the feet. I just see him not reacting to any of, Ferguson's unorthodox striking. And I see him losing by TKO in the second round. Winner, Tony Ferguson.
This is number one bullshit. Because
I hope not.
This is number one. This is number one.
I'm betting
bullshit.
a lot of money on this, people.
This is number one bullshit because Ferguson has showed that fighters can get on the inside, and Khabib is able to generate so much weight with his punches that even though he's shown that he's sloppy on the feet, he could rock Ferguson with one of those looping lefts or looping rights.
Okay, well, to each his own. But again, my pick, Tony Ferguson.
My pick, Khabib Nurmagomedov. Takedown city. Gonna grind him, gonna wear him out, gonna beat him in the third round.
We'll see. I really do hope you guys enjoyed this first plug of this combat sport.
Caged Combat with Kevin and Chris. There'll be much more to come.
Thank you guys for watching.
Thank you.
Subscribe.
You want to weigh in on this?
Sure.
Talk about Khabib Nurmagomedov.
He's a hell of a fighter.
Hell of a fighter. There we go.
Gonna fight Conor McGregor someday.
Style with Khabib having.
Scott, you can't smile at me. Scott, cut. I swear to God, turn around. Turn around. This fucker is looking at me.
No, did you see the back of your fucking notes?
Need the computer for MMA research.